on. I think we may be prepared to live stream the meeting.
Oh, on YouTube.
All right, good job.
Setting up the meeting for you to.
Yay.
Cool.
We
What
should
did-
know in about 20 seconds.
Okay.
I got a
Because
little
there's a
window here saying meetings now
20-second delay.
on YouTube.
Says it's streaming, but it doesn't show up on the site.
All right, I have to redirect. The problem is it's going to the Village of Gates Mills website, Tom, instead of Jean Mish website. Let me go to our website and put the correct link. Can we tell those people to go back in 30 seconds to go back to the other website, and I'll redirect them to the right link. Okay. I gotta log in too.
Yeah, so we could say, please.
I don't know what that
connect
means.
in
For
1
God's
minute.
sakes.
We're at a different website, but we're streaming, so we can stream. I just need to put it on the website. And I'm going to go do that for my other computer because it's faster. So
So
I don't know.
you want me to put a thing in that says, please come back to the website in 60 seconds?
To the Village of Gates.
Yes. Village of Gates Mills website in 60
that's how-
seconds.
That's how they were directed to watch it, was click on watch here, click here for the link.
Yeah, and
We
so
need to
our
get
link
off
is
the
wrong
current-
now, so they're in the wrong spot.
So
Okay,
you
we're
go
getting
put
there.
it, go fix it, Jean, and then come back.
Gates
You go,
Mills,
Jean. Go.
Village.com. Go, Jean, go. User.
You go fix it.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Give me the opportunity in this moment of silence.
All right, I'll go fix it.
What?
No, I'm
There
asking,
goes that hairdo.
asking Chip a question.
Oh.
Chip, can you,
No,
Go ahead,
Gina, I
what?
see us streaming now, yeah.
did you ever get a hold of Marisa?
I did, yes. No luck.
No luck. Okay, great.
I don't think I was the first one to ask, so,
Sure you weren't.
yes.
And I'll be right behind you when she does open up again.
Who's Marisa?
We're laughing because getting a haircut is become
Oh,
It seems to be working now.
dog groom
finding eggs and toilet paper in the garden.
and dog grooming.
Hello?
Do you
So-
see how long my hair is? I've
There's
never had this hair, my hair this
from,
long since
Barnes.
college.
Sandra,
I hate it.
Larry, what are you saying?
I like it very
There's
much.
a message here from T Barnes. It looks
I
like.
can't
it's
hear
working.
you.
It says it looks like it's working now.
Oh, good.
Well, is somebody on YouTube?
I am.
Wait up.
Fresh.
I can't hear you.
Doesn't look like it's working to me.
T Barnes says 15 video boxes are streaming.
Oh, it is. It is. It's on.
Okay,
Uh,
we're missing somebody. I only have 14 up.
Jean. I think Jean disappeared.
Hey.
Yeah.
It is live now.
Okay.
It's working.
It is up there.
Yay.
It's on YouTube. And there are all 3 people, one of which is me. It is live now. It's working.
All right. So shall we start?
Yes.
And there are all 3 people, one of which is me. It is live now. It's working.
Who's talking?
Who's talking?
You might need to turn off the volume on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, you should get off of the YouTube channel because it will.
I'm off.
I'm off.
Or have it muted because it's going to be 20 seconds of delay and it's going to really confuse things.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not on it. I don't know what that was. Okay, are we ready to go? Can I start?
Let's
I
go.
believe so.
Authorizing you.
Okay, I'm going to start. I'm going to, Tom, shake your head. Yes, it's on. Okay, great. Welcome to our first Zoom and YouTube Gates Mills Council meeting for April 14th, 2020. We had a little trouble getting going, but we're now going, and I'm happy to say that this is a first and we're all learning with it. Todd, our law director, I'd like you to say a little bit to begin with, just to please update us why we're doing our meeting like this and that this is allowed.
Well, the Ohio Director of Health has issued an order and extended that order, which limits gatherings to 10 persons or less, and also has a social distancing requirement of 6 feet between persons meeting. And the village really doesn't have the capability to have an in-person meeting and televise it out to the public necessarily. So an alternative, which is permitted now by the passage of Ohio House Bill 197 2 weeks ago, approximately 2 weeks ago, permits virtual meetings as long as the public can hear or see and hear what is happening at the meeting. And so it permits video virtual meetings, it permits telephonic meetings, and it permits local officials to take official action and take votes virtually or telephonically. So that's why we're doing what we're doing, to continue to do the business of the Village of Gates Mills.
Great, thank you. Can we have a roll call now?
Allworder,
Here.
Frankel,
Yes, here.
Reynolds,
Here.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Can somebody make a motion to excuse Councilperson Welch?
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Okay, so moved by Reynolds, seconded by, I didn't see. Sprinkle?
Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Okay, great. Next thing, or the first thing on the agenda are the mayoral appointments for the Rita Council of Government. And I'm suggesting that we have the representative be Bob or Robert Reitman and Janet Mull as alternate. And this will be starting the end of June or July 1.
So moved.
Turner? Turner and Sog.
Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Okay, great. Next is minutes from the council meeting of February 11th, 2020, as corrected, which Janet sent out to everybody this afternoon, and with everybody's input and highlighted her corrections.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Sog, second by Whitney.
Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Great. Next is pay ordinance 1235 for $423,207.87.
I move to approve.
Second.
Reynolds moved, Sog seconded.
Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Great. Next is pay ordinance 1236 for $449,721.75.
So moved.
Second.
Allworder motioned, Sandra Turner second.
Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Okay, next on the agenda is our financial statement and treasurer's report. Tim.
Okay, the village ended, pardon me. The village ended the first quarter of the year with a general fund surplus of $146,000.
Real estate tax receipts are running somewhat ahead of budget, which typically will correct itself as the year proceeds. Other revenues are higher, largely due to interest income and cell tower rental receipts. Our operations are, except for the fire department, underspent relative to our budget year to date. The fire department is over budget year to date due to unanticipated maintenance and repair expenditures. Looking forward, it seems certain that village revenues will be impacted by the pandemic. Municipal income tax receipts are likely to be lower than budget as furloughs, unemployment, business closures, and reduced executive compensation are all impacted by the stay-at-home orders. Rental income will also be lower as our tenants struggle with business closures and reduced volume. Real estate tax receipts may also suffer if homeowners delay payments. It is difficult to project the extent of these impacts currently. However, tight cash control and control of operations is in order, with less urgent expenditures considered for delay, consistent though with our mission to protect the safety of our citizens. It is times like these that emphasize the importance of maintaining appropriate reserves for the village. Fortunately, our reserve position stands at slightly more than 1 year's revenues. Our long-range planning effort, when it is able to get started, should focus on ways to rebuild and maintain this reserve position. Our Ancora account stands at 4.8 million, including accrued interest. Interest income over the next 12 months is projected at $102,000. That's my report. Are there any questions or comments?
Kim,
Yes,
I had a question. I was noticing the rental income was significantly higher based on the year to date for the first time. And I was wondering, was there some additional funds that came in?
That's the cell tower. I'm sorry, Larry, that's the cell tower rental?
Okay, so that's where that was from?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
any other questions for Tim or Janet? Okay. Next, Mary.
I'd like to take this opportunity before the mayor gives her report to introduce a motion requesting each department head to prepare a list of non-essential expenditures that are in their already approved 2020 budget, but that could be deferred. The motion would also direct the department heads to submit their lists to the Finance Committee Chair and the Treasurer by May 1. The Finance Committee Chair and Treasurer will recommend to the mayor then the delay of non-essential expenses as necessary and report such to council at our next meeting in May. By May 1, the village should have a clearer idea of Governor DeWine's plan to allow businesses to reopen. So I'm hoping for a second for this motion.
Second.
Second.
I think that's a great idea, Mary. I was reading that the DeWine has said that there could be a $2 billion shortfall in the budget, and he's requested that all his departments have a 20% decrease of their original budget. So I think that this is very timely. Thank you for that.
I think it's the thing to do, knowing that this is such a fluid situation. All the numbers in our original budget aren't really realistic now because we have no idea what our revenues nor are going to be for this year. So allowing us to defer any major expenses until we've got a better handle on this, I think is prudent. So I think I've got a second, but before we vote,
I have a comment,
please, thank you.
if I may. It speaks to your resolution, but I think although in February we approved the mayor to go and negotiate for the master plan, I think at this time it would be prudent to wait to execute the contract for that for $55,000 with CT Consultants. It just seems prudent to me to wait until the village, to wait until the time when the village knows what the revenue and what our expenses, how we're going to be impacted because of the virus.
Are there any other comments?
I would just say that, Anne, in the same light, we have on the agenda tonight some equipment that we were planning to buy. And when we get there, I'd like Dave to weigh in if these are items that can be deferred, or are these things that are essential at this point.
I can speak to this briefly. The mayor has decided, after speaking to Dave, with this motion being introduced tonight and now hopefully approved, that the resolutions 2020, 14 and 15 will be pulled from our agenda tonight. A perfect example of looking at something that does not have to be decided tonight, a fairly expensive equipment that was in the budget and was approved, but now has to be relooked at in terms of the bigger and very fluid changing situation.
I think it's more that things can be pushed out. It isn't that we don't need it. We need it, but it needs to be pushed out a little bit till we kind of get where, like everybody else, where we are.
I'd like to make a comment, Anne, about the master plan, and I certainly understand where you're coming from at this time. Just a point or two in support of the master plan. The way it's designed, people need to get together in person, to begin the planning and the discussion, and that, with all prudence, wouldn't begin until probably later this year anyway. So I think just naturally the plan would get delayed. And once once we did begin working the plan, the consultants would be paid kind of on an hourly basis, so to speak. So all of the money wouldn't be paid this year, maybe not even into next year. And I think
it's a 12 to 13 month project.
And then the final point is, I think given this particular time, people are going to be eager to get together and kind of chart a new path for the village in light of the pandemic. So I think the master plan is going to be real important when we are able to get together. And I think people will be eager to come together. And just from being involved in a couple of grant applications, having the voice of the community is really important in helping when you go after funds. So I don't disagree with you at all. I just want to support us keeping the master plan as a priority whenever it can be developed.
I agree that the master plan has value. It has great value. It's just something that if I were sitting at my kitchen table and deciding what bills we should pay and what we should commit to, when we sign that contract, we are committing to $55,000. And the world may look a little differently when we do come out of this.
Okay, understood.
So
I would
just why?
Okay, Nancy, you want to say something?
Yes, I would like to comment. I thought about this afternoon when the issue came up, and I wanted to suggest that the mayor and Chip, who's been spearheading this, consider adding some clauses to the contract, because we do have a commitment on the cost, and I would like the cost not to go up. So I wanted to suggest that we potentially go forward with the consultant, go ahead and sign the contract with a provision saying that we would not commit to a date to start it, and that we would have a clause that we could exit if we, because of the pandemic and our drastic changes to our budget, we might have to defer it indefinitely. That way we could lock in what we've already gotten as in our bid, we had a terrific response, and this was by far the most reasonable and the best offer that we got from any consultants. So I hate to let it go. So I would just consider that.
I think Chip, where's Chip? Chip, we did add about the virus into the contract.
We did. They've been, very accommodating. I think, as a lot of organizations are being very accommodating with this situation. I hear Nancy's point. I think that's one approach, and I think we should consider that. Perhaps A variation is a commitment from them that they will hold the terms. We don't have to sign it at this moment, but they would hold the terms for 90 or 180 days and give us the time to put it in place. I think the point is, I think I support Nancy's point. We have it teed up. We don't want to lose it. I did want to comment, and I'll just add it since this whole topic is the master plan. We've been doing a lot of background work at this point. The mayor's letter to the village, annual state of the village, solicited people to indicate if they'd be interested in participating. We had a great response. We have, I think, 40 or 50 names of people. We've talked with virtually all of them. Many of them communicated by email, but we've talked with, I think, almost everyone. And we've got a lot of interest in people participating, representing young and old, male, female, different parts of the village geographically. So we do have this teed up. I also agree. We certainly have the uncertainty of the financial outlook. We also have the practicality. We do need to meet in person, and I don't think anybody's going to be ready to do that, at least for the next month, if not 2 or 3 months. So I don't think pushing it out a bit is going to hurt anything. I agree with Nancy. We don't want to lose this, and I'll take it as a task to see how best we can accommodate not losing it and but giving us the flexibility.
Thank you, Chip.
Any other comments or questions?
When do we anticipate it? You know, in a reasonable scenario, when would we anticipate if jobs if businesses reopen and let's say by summer things are starting to kind of get back on track, when would we be making our first payment to CT Consultants?
There isn't a first payment. It's going to be, it's by the hour, it's a top end price, and it's by the hour. So if we don't meet, and she does not want to do like a Zoom meeting, she wants in-person meetings. So, because that's how people get, and it's the whole thing of it. So, and we wouldn't be, she wouldn't be submitting a bill to us to be paid until after we've started the process and started having meetings, of which we're nowhere near that.
So probably third or fourth quarter, which I'm
probably third quarter, Mary, given.
I would say third.
Yeah.
If we can get going, but until we're allowed to have meetings, it's not, because the first meeting's going to be at least like 25 people, maybe more.
Well, I mean, as importantly, third quarter, we're going to know a lot more about where the economy in general is going. And if it's going down, we're not going to be doing anything toward a master plan right away because our numbers will still be so fluid.
Right. Well, we'd have to put it off at that point.
Yeah.
We're just going to have to see what happens.
I have 2 comments back, one on the motion, and I'd like to respond to Larry's comment. So Larry, we did dig in as was indicated regarding the truck. When we get to that topic, or maybe when we get to the service department report, I'd like Dave to comment then on the implications of pushing out the truck. I think you're going to hear we're comfortable pushing that decision out, but just like to have you understand some of the background. So
Chip, there's not a service department report, so you should probably say what you need to say.
Okay, so
we take care of the motion first that's on the table here.
Well, okay, so as far as the motion, May 1st is 2.5 weeks from now. Really, that means over the entire month of April. At the moment, department heads are authorized and expected to operate according to the budget. Does this motion, even though we haven't teed anything up, our department heads do a phenomenal job of managing their departments. They manage to, if not under the budget. So this isn't meant to be anything more than, as soon as we can be deferring expenses, we should. And does this motion launch that process right now, even though it may take a while to identify some things, or what happens over the next 2 weeks or 10 or 20 days at this point?
I think what we're asking for the department heads is to quickly look over their budgets and find out their what we would refer to as non-essential non-critical purchases that they had hoped to accomplish in the, let's say, second and third quarter. And if any of those can be, if we find ourselves in really dire straits, be pushed back by a quarter or whatnot. And I don't think that will be as time consuming as redoing their budgets. It's just going through their approved budgets and seeing if there isn't anything that they could highlight that could be pushed back.
Hold, right.
So the motion just to have the department heads go through their budgets and give a list to Tim?
And
They were giving it to the mayor and Tim.
And Tim.
and the head of the finance.
Mayor and Tim.
It's really to
Mary?
look at, it's
Oh.
really to look at, so Tim and I can look at and see what can be pushed out until we know what our finances in are gonna be. So it
Right,
might
I'm
be
just-
that the truck
I'm
gets
just trying to make
pushed
sure I have
out.
the motion right for the minutes. That's
Right. It's
Ma-
what can we push out as needed so that we know we have to have the money to be able to pay salaries and medical and whatnot, but we don't necessarily need to buy the truck now. So it's stuff like that. I mean,
So,
we can get to a point by the end of the year where we won't be able to do the paving. I mean, God forbid, but we don't know.
So Mary, would you accept an amendment? I know you said by May 1, but would it be appropriate to perhaps set the timeline earlier than that? I mean, it's only the 14th of April.
Well, I think the reason we chose or discussed May 1 is because I think we're going to have a clearer direction of what the state's responsibility, what the state is going to do as far as funding for individual cities and villages, and whether we get a green light that people are going to go back to work. So we used May 1 simply because we think we'll get a clearer, if possible, we're going to get a clearer message from Governor DeWine. As to
We
what-
could put it 5 days before that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's hopeful that we'll get some direction by May 1, but
Well, we'll get direction.
I think moving up the timeline is
Well,
another option.
The order from the government is in effect until May 1. So they're going to either have to issue another order or change the one that's in there somehow. And I think that their hope is that they're going to be doing some sort of slow, whatever that means, opening.
Yeah.
Yes, Sandra,
So that's the point.
the shelter in place is in effect right now till May 1.
Right.
Right.
So Karen's point is that he's either going to amend it and extend it, or he's going to ease up on it. And then that just helps businesses get back, back opening up their doors and whatnot. So we use that May 1 date. It's 2 weeks. It gives each department head 2 weeks to look at their budgets. But also then hopefully we're going to get some kind of signal from Columbus as to what the future of the state's economy is going to look like. And then it's time then that we'll be able to have the mayor look at it and the treasurer look at it and be able to then report back to our council meeting on, I think it's the 12th, as to what their recommendations are going to be.
Well,
Tim?
no matter what was done, I don't think that this motion says we can't delay things right away. The department heads have budget authority, and the mayor certainly has the authority to say, okay, we're going to hold off on that one. This is just a process to go through so that we're reporting back, we're collecting the data and then making decisions and reporting back to council. That's really.
And
They're
I guess,
here at the meeting. They're here at the meeting, so. They're
right,
here at the meeting, so they are getting the message of what we're trying to say.
Exactly. They'll look at it by department. It'll be good.
and alls I'm trying to advocate is that starting tomorrow morning, if they want to recommend to the mayor and the treasurer that even though this is a budgeted item, in their opinion, this could be deferred, do they need to, we want to encourage that. We want them to be scrutinized. They think they're under authority and responsible for executing the budget. And obviously they all, again, they're very, very responsible individuals, but I don't want to wait till May 12th to say, oh, gee, should we delay the truck or not? We're making that decision tonight, but if they can make the decision tomorrow morning with your approval, then get going. I don't want to just business as usual. Obviously we're not, but I just want to make sure they understand starting right after this meeting to be scrutinizing and pushing anything and everything out. If it means
Yes.
sign a can of paint,
If they're comfortable with that, then I think that's a great idea.
that's all. That's all I'm at.
Okay.
Motion.
Janet, do you have that?
I hope so.
I'll
We had a motion from Mary and a second from Nancy.
Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Okay, next is mayor's report. Well, since the last time we met, our world and our village have had a lot of difficult changes. Some of them heartbreaking things that have been happening to the village, from canceling our art show, which was quite sad for a lot of our residents, and everything else that's been going on in the world outside of Gates Mills. We need to stay positive. We need to help each other. On a positive note, and I hope she's watching. I don't know if we have a list, or we have no idea of who's watching us on YouTube. But I do want to say, this was brought up to me by a resident. Congratulations to Julie Hewlett, who covers us for the Chagrin Valley Times. The newspaper won Newspaper of the Year, and Julie, who was part of a team, did an in-depth part of a team about recycling that was very well done in the paper. And she also won first place for best local feature, which was on the blessing of the hunt in Gates Mills. So
Great.
she's been a pleasure to work with for us. So congratulations. On another note, it's a good thing that the 319 bank had been done and held under the flooding that we recently had, because I don't know if that was an all-time record for the height of the river, but it certainly was high. It took out, or didn't take out, the 319, it held, fortunately, but and the plants have since been fixed up. Our park was a mess, but thanks to our service department, it is back to almost looking as perfect as it did before the flood. And a big thank you to our service department. In your packet, there's pictures of our new bocce house, which they redid over the winter, that was donated to the village. And I think it's beautiful and quite a good addition to our park, to Marston Park. Also, thank you to Janet and Mike Fig for the Easter egg handout, to Jean and to Ben for all the prep work with it. I think everybody was, it was very well received, and we were out of egg bags within approximately an hour, I think Janet said. So all good there. The police report, fire report, and service report were in your package. I don't know if there's any questions that anybody needs to ask of our fire or police chief or service director.
Before we get to that, I had a question though for you, Karen, because you mentioned recycling. And
mentioned what?
Recycling. And
yes.
Originally we had a recycle seminar on May 13th.
Good point.
Shall we go ahead and cancel that, or wait until we see what restrictions are after May 1st with the governor?
Well, everything has been canceled, actually, Larry. If we didn't cancel it, the people that were giving it or whatnot canceled it. I think we'd probably have to reschedule, or I mean, we should reschedule it. There was some confusion. We at one point were discontinuing the recycling containers. The containers are still there, but the Conservancy is not getting paid any money for them. But at the moment, they are still being picked up from us. So that's a good thing. Or you still have the option of putting the recycled goods, full collapsed boxes, please, at your out with your trash.
Okay. I'd also like to make a comment that the Easter Bunny did a great job. And that was
yeah, it was pretty cool.
That was outstanding.
A lot of fun.
It was great.
Any other thoughts?
Karen, go ahead, Nancy.
Okay, Nancy.
Greg, I just wondered Greg, I was wondering if overall, if there's been any increase in crime that you've been hearing about with the current pandemic situation, I had heard there might be some increases in, not necessarily, not necessarily in our area, but in the surrounding communities. Have you heard anything about that?
There's been, certainly some of the surrounding communities have had some, some the retail theft has picked up, obviously, in certain communities around our area. Like, some of the big box retailers that are still open. I get notices on that all the time. One up at Eastgate is having a little bit of an issue here right now. And, we received notices from the Mayfield Heights Detective Bureau to keep an eye on things. But, things have slowed down all over the place, though. I do know the detectives up in Mayfield Heights, they're breaking up their shifts. A couple of them are working out of the house each week, and there's, they're not bringing people into the station. We're seeing that. So they're doing whatever they can remotely. So they're getting behind, and I think that's the common theme with some of the larger agencies near us. The Valley departments, we talk to those guys all the time, and more people are home now. So, we're not seeing the serious crimes that, pop up here and there, which is a good thing. But all in all, the things have slowed down, but there is some crimes in the surrounding area. And not a surprise, but there's been a couple serious incidents up the hill a little bit, but they're in the process of investigating that and doing what they need to do. So.
Okay, thank you. Chip, you had a comment?
Yeah, the
question?
recycle bins back in the service area, are they actually still operational? You're on mute, Karen. You hit mute.
There you go. You're okay
Am I
now?
still on mute?
No.
No.
Okay, no, they are still operational. They were picked up, or emptied out on Friday, I believe. Yes, they're operational.
Okay.
Or Monday. I don't know if it was Monday morning. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I wanted to also make note the flyer that went out for our meeting tonight that Jean and Janet did, which turned out to be real nice. On the back of it, our voting day is April 28th by absentee ballot. I hope everybody's aware of that. It's a two-step process. You have to request the ballot, and then they send it to you and you return it postage paid. So that announcement. Anything else before we go on? Okay. So the next thing is ordinance number 2020-9. Ann?
This is a second reading for ordinance 2020-9, and the process is the same for this ordinance. Our community education, the timing of that will probably change, but the process is the same. We will still do education. We will have the ordinance on the website for feedback. So second reading, 2020-9, an ordinance adopting new chapter 1176, riparian setbacks of the codified ordinances of the village.
Okay. Next is resolution 20.
Karen,
What?
I'm curious as to whether or not the education will occur for the riparian setback prior to the third reading, or will we postpone the third reading?
If we get to the third reading, it can just sit on the shelf. It doesn't have to be acted upon until such time as it has to go to P&Z and then come back to us, and then we can act on it if we've had the third reading. Todd, do you want to weigh in on that? Is that correct?
That's correct. There's no requirement that the third time it appears on your agenda that you have to act upon it then. And you cannot act upon it until you get a recommendation from Planning and Zoning Commission. And you cannot act on it until you have a council public hearing on it. So there's quite a bit of requirements before you can even take a vote after the third reading.
And we can have the third reading, and then at the next council meeting, we could have the hearing and the P and Z recommendation.
That's
So
correct.
I thought it was important for the people that are viewing this and for others to know that we will have the education so people can really understand the benefits of the riparian setback for the community.
it might be that that gets pushed to June, maybe July,
We don't
but we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah,
know when we'll have a planning and zoning meeting next.
yeah, we'll see. You might be able to do it. Okay, so the next is resolution 2020-11. Chip.
Okay, so first of all, for those that are curious, the status of the salt usage, you might think because it was such a mild winter that we're not using much salt at all. But interestingly, we, as you're aware, we use a mixture of slag and salt to coat the roads in preparation for snow and ice. And the cost of slag has risen to the point that it's economic to actually increase the mix of salt and decrease the mix of slag. And so this winter, we used more salt as a result. And interestingly, as spring is unfolding, you might be noticing that there's a lot less cinders on the road, and the service department will have a lot less work having to clean up all of the cinders on the road. And we've been getting comments from residents noticing that they're not having quite the same level of cinders. So as a result, at this moment, we only are required to purchase another 150 tons of salt under the 2019-2020 contract. And while it may take a couple of service guys to push the last pound into the salt storage unit, we do feel we have the space to take that extra that last 150 ton, and we'll have a very full bin going into next fall. So that's using 90%. As you may recall, when we sign set a tonnage, sign an actual tonnage number, we can use 90 to 110% of that. And this year, on this last contract, we will end up purchasing 90%. So now ODOT has, I think, moved this timing up a little bit, and we're now being requested to commit to the ODOT contract for the 2020-2021 season. We, from time to time, you will see reports of other communities that are under different kinds of contracts, maybe did it on their own and might get a better price. But over time, we feel strongly that this is the best bulk contract for us to participate in this. And that's what we're recommending tonight, is we sign up under this contract again for 2020. Dave, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is this year we're going to request 1,700 tons of salt. Last year we committed to 1,400. And again, it's just to make up a little difference for that. We won't be using the aggregate with the salt. We'll intentionally just run straight salt.
Okay. I have a question, Chip and Dave. So we don't know what the cost is going to be this year, right? Because this is the ODOT's going out to bid again, or is this a continuation of the same price from last year?
No, this is a completely new contract.
Okay.
So we have to submit our every city that's going to participate in the contract submits their quantity, and then based on what the total, that's what they go out to bid with.
Okay.
And then that's what the price comes back at us with once the bids come.
It also says in here that there is a requirement to pay for all of the road salt 30 days after receiving it, 30 days
Correct.
net. So in light of the budget and the pandemic, is the state is the state considering changing that in the contract with a successful bidder? Or if you don't know, could you inquire about
Yeah,
that?
I'd have to look. I don't know. So far, I've seen nothing that would change any type of payment on a based on a delivery.
Okay.
We wouldn't be getting a delivery anytime soon.
No.
Supposed to be next
Well,
fall.
other than out of the current contract, right? But out
Right.
of the new contract, we wouldn't get a delivery until October, November.
Okay, but still,
Right.
30 days net for the whole amount, even
No, no,
terms.
no. It's
No.
whatever's delivered.
What we get.
So
Per amount.
usually we ask for anywhere between 200 and 400 tons at a time.
Okay,
So we have 30 days to pay for that 200, not the 1,700. We have 30 days to pay for whatever amount we order.
okay.
As
Okay,
delivered.
that,
Yeah.
as delivered. Okay, that's fine. I'd still ask you to inquire whether there's any,
Yeah.
could be any change in the terms.
I
That could
think the
benefit
problem's
us.
going to be because we pay the contractor, we don't pay the state.
Yeah,
I don't know that the state would be able to answer that question, but certainly I can inquire to see if there's any kind of a length, longer, payment.
okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Anything else on salt?
Do you
Do
need a
I-
second?
We need to move. Do I make a motion?
I thought you.
Need a
Yes.
need to suspend?
Yes, I need a motion to suspend. Well, first of all, suspend resolution number 2020-11 authorizing participation in the ODOT road salt contracts to be awarded in 2020. And I,
Second.
Who seconded? Was that you, Nancy?
Yeah.
Mary Ryan?
Doesn't matter.
Sog? Okay.
Kim.
Motion by
Allworder.
Allworder, second Sog.
Allworder,
yes,
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yeah.
Turner,
Yes,
Whitney.
Yes,
now I move to approve resolution number 2020-11 for the ODOT road salt contract.
Second.
Allworder,
Yes,
second by Frankel.
Allworder,
yes,
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
yes.
Whitney.
yes,
Okay, next is resolution 2020-12. Larry?
Okay, resolution 2020-12 is a resolution expressing the intent of the village of Gates Mills in 2020 to sell by internet auction personal property, including motor vehicles and other property referenced in Ohio Revised Code 721.15, which are no longer needed for public use or are obsolete or unfit for the use for which they were acquired, authorizing govdeals.com Inc. to perform the sales, authorizing the sale of specific personal property by internet auction and declaring an emergency. This is to sell the fire engine that we recently replaced. And so we need to suspend, don't we, Todd? Because we're declaring
Yes.
emergency.
Yes.
So a motion to suspend resolution 2020-12.
second,
Second,
Okay, I had Frankel and Reynolds.
Allworder,
yes,
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds, Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
yes.
Whitney.
yes,
And motion to approve resolution number 2020-12.
second,
Second,
Motion by Frankel, second by Turner.
Allworder,
yes,
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
yes.
Whitney.
yes,
Okay, next is ordinance 2020-13. This is an ordinance authorizing certification of the village costs of nuisance abatement for 1337 Chagrin River Road, parcel number 842-20-003, to the Cuyahoga County Fiscal Officer as a special assessment for placement on the tax duplicate for collection in one annual installment and declaring an emergency. This is in relation to the costs associated with taking the house down at 1337 Chagrin River Road. They haven't paid the bill, so now is when we need authorization to put it on the tax duplicate.
So I move to suspend,
I believe so.
move to suspend.
I'll second.
Motion by Sog, second by Reynolds.
Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yeah,
Turner,
Yes,
Whitney.
Yes,
move to approve.
I'll second.
Moved by Sog, second by Reynolds.
Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes,
Turner,
yes.
Whitney.
yes,
Okay. Next is resolution 2020-14. Chip,
Okay, so this builds on what we discussed previously. This was the resolution authorizing purchase of a 2020 Ford F-550 truck cab chassis and associated equipment package from Mayor Ford. We are taking this resolution off the agenda for the reasons we talked about earlier. So as background, this would have, the need here is to replace one of our plow trucks. This one would replace the oldest plow truck, which is a 2005 model. That's 15 years old. And talking with Dave, and I'll let him speak here in a second. The only risk here is that it will require more maintenance than it would otherwise, obviously, if we had a new truck. Dave was proposing this to do now because the model year changes over in a month or two, and typically the price goes up. So he wanted to get this in before the price went up. Dave, do you want to comment about the implications of pushing this out, perhaps as long as into next year's budget? We don't know, but go ahead, Dave.
I think those are the two biggest points. Obviously, we're going to have to continue to maintain it. Costs for the chassis are going to go up, by delay. But I mean, we can work either way.
Dave,
okay.
quantify what the costs of repairing the current one will be in relation to the cost of the new one, so that when we start evaluating what essential is after May 1, when you've kind of looked at this in your budget. I know we're really asking you to delay it no less than 30 days, but
right.
So that we want to be prudent in terms of if the maintenance is going to cost as much as replacing it, we don't want to do that.
Well, but understand, yeah, I can do that, and I'm happy to do that. The biggest thing is the unknowns. I mean, it runs great today, and tomorrow, as we're doing something with it, the turbo unit blows. I mean, there's no way for me to predict everything that we may have to put into it. But yeah, we can absolutely look at it.
You'll know that there are certain major or minor repairs that you could expect.
Right.
And we don't want to not have the plow truck for next winter.
Right. Okay.
Dave, is there any opportunity, if need be, to lease a truck on a temporary basis rather than buy a truck if we run into a situation where we're seeing?
I think as opposed to leasing, I mean, if you're saying short term, what I probably want to look more at as opposed to doing that is to see if we can maybe change some of the truck routes to try and, split the route of what that truck would be doing amongst other trucks. Obviously with the lease, I think you pay a little bit more in the long run, but if you're talking short term, I mean, that's an option. Again, in the study, we can look at and see what,
Okay.
I'm thinking there also could be an option, if need be, maybe a lease to buy, because we really don't know if, what prices are going to do, and, it could be even less because people may have inventory they need to get rid of.
Mhm.
I think there are other opportunities there.
Yeah, we can absolutely look at a couple different options.
Yeah.
Remember, we do get good pricing for buying because we are a municipality through the state co-op.
So what am I actually doing here, Todd? Just taking this off the table?
I think the proper motion would be a motion to table the resolution And then you can bring it back whenever you feel appropriate.
Okay,
Can
so
we
I
do them
move.
together?
I'm sorry.
Could we do both of them together?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
You're not
so,
reading them, so.
yeah, these, resolution 2020-14 is for the chassis, the truck cab and chassis, and resolution 2020-15 is for the, effectively the dump truck bed and the plow portion of the truck. So putting those two together, I'm gonna move that we, table resolution 2020-14 and 2020-15.
Second,
Motion by Allwater, second Turner.
Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds, Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Okay, next is resolution 2020-16. Chip,
Yes, this resolution is a resolution authorizing a contract with Burton Scott Contractors for labor and materials for the emergency repair of Old Mill Road due to storm water damage and declaring an emergency. For those that may have been unaware, the east side of Old Mill from the bridge going east on Old Mill, portion washed out effectively. Water came under the road. And Dave, you can go into a little more detail here, but it was an emergency. We got two quotes. Dave asked the mayor and I, and we certainly gave, go ahead because it was an emergency. The Old Mill was closed. And so go ahead, Dave, with a little more detail.
Yeah, we did do, we had two bids. One was from Burton Scott, who did last year's paving. And the other was from Specialized, who's done paving for us in the past. Burton Scott was higher by about $750, but they were able to get in that last week, whereas Specialized couldn't get in for about another 2 to 3 weeks. So being that it was Old Mill, we felt that it was prudent to try and get the work done and get it opened up. So it was complete. They paved Monday and then we opened it up Monday afternoon.
And this will be part of our road budget for 2020.
Correct.
And opportunity for some of this to be reimbursed by the county.
Correct. Old Mill was on our list of reimbursement with the county. And so I think the bill was around 32,000, whatever. We should get about 16,000 back on the material cost for that work.
Dave, could you?
terrific.
Dave, could you mention the scope of the work and what they did to mitigate further washing out of the road?
What we ended up doing, what happened was two of the drives that had a fair amount of the water in the storm coming off the drive onto the street, it ran down the hill and got under the joint and then lifted all the pavement. So what we did was we extended the patch, if you will, for about another 100 feet and took it past those driveways. So that joint should be above any additional water problems we might have from the two drives. So that hopefully should have solved that problem in the future.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
A motion to declaring an emergency for resolution.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Suspend the rules, yeah.
Second.
Motion by Allwater, second by Sog.
Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds, Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes,
Whitney.
Yes.
And now motion to approve resolution 2020-16, authorizing the contract with Burton Scott Contractors.
Second.
second,
Motion by Allwater, second by Frankel.
Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds, Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
yes.
Whitney.
Yes.
Okay. Next is ordinance 2020-17, an ordinance amending chapter 931, water of the village's utilities code to set charges for water service connections to lots within the village corporate limits and outside the village corporate limits, which are in your packet. This sets the price in the village to 16.5 and outside the village to 20,000. We had talked about this, actually, Tim and I've talked about it a number of times for quite a while. And we're waiting until all loans and everything were paid off to go back and revisit this. So that's where it is. Any questions or thoughts on it?
I had a question about, I didn't understand outside the village corporate limits.
Well, we've had some people on the Chesterland side of County Line Road who are connected now. They did it when the water project actually went in initially. And then there's some new houses that have since gone in, and one that is, I believe it's under construction now, isn't it, Janet? Or going up. I don't know exactly where it is, but
Yeah, they're
it's a
getting
new
ready to
one.
go. Mhm.
Yeah, and would like to also connect. And so we've come up with prices.
How many potential homes have not hooked up yet to the water system that this is a
In
potential?
the village of Gates Mills, well, it's more that they would connect when it changes hands. It goes back to when we had the haves and the have-nots and all this with the water, and we have some people that never connected just because they didn't want it to begin with, so they'd be damned if they're going to connect to it. But those houses in some instances are now up for sale. So the possibility of somebody coming in and buying it now and then wanting to connect, we need to be able to have an answer.
Okay, good.
And about what percent do we think of the homes are not connected? Do we know?
I don't know percent-wise, Chip. I really have no idea on that. There's a fair amount of them, I would say. You know, what would I say? More than 20? Yes, absolutely. I don't know how many more. And then outside the village, you know, it's easy access along County Line Road would be the only place. I don't know along Wilson Mills or River. It's possible, I just don't know.
Well, you mentioned even along Berkshire that there's somebody who hadn't connected and that house is now on the market.
Up for sale, that's correct. So we need to come and set a price. And, you know, I mean, it's money to add to the coffers. What can I say?
Is there a way to find out how many people are not connected? Are there well permits that the county would have that we might?
There are people that kept their wells when the water project went in. They were allowed to do that. They got the original charge of $6,000 on their tax duplicate if they did not pay it. And most of those let it go to the tax duplicate because they did not want to pay it. They didn't want the water project. So 20 years later, we have to come up with a price so that if somebody comes to us now and they want to connect that property, we have a price to tell them.
Do people with wells have to get a annual like inspection or county?
No,
approval?
no,
No.
no.
If you, so for example, there are people, myself included, who connected right away, but also maintained my well.
Exactly.
You got to do that, you had to have a backflow valve so that your well water didn't infiltrate into city water. And a part of getting a backflow valve means you submit to an annual inspection of that valve. So there is that.
And most of our street has gone to backflow valves and whatnot, haven't they, Dave, or something? We've got all kinds of things now.
I think what you might be thinking is when we were having the some of the stormwater backup in basements, mainly on the east side, we ended up getting some money through a grant through the county, and we put some backflow preventers on the drains. Yeah. Exactly.
This is so that we really set the price so that when somebody asks, like we have somebody asking right now, we have a price that Janet can say, it's going to cost you $20,000 or it's going to cost you $16,500. And actually this is good because if we left the price would be up where nobody'd pay it in the $30,000. Correct, Janet?
Yes, I mean, for some, it would be 35,000.
Right.
close to
So
the-
this is, since everything, the loans were paid off, this is resetting it so that we can drum up some business maybe.
Need a motion to suspend?
I'll second.
Motion by Sog, seconded by Reynolds.
Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes,
Whitney.
Yes,
Move to adopt.
second,
By Sog, seconded by Turner.
Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
yes,
Whitney.
yes.
Okay, next is resolution 2020-18. Anne,
I'd like to introduce Resolution 2020-18, a resolution authorizing and directing the transfer of a certain sum from the 319 grant fund to the general fund as reimbursement for legal services performed by Walter Haverfield. And I move to suspend.
Second.
Moved by Whitney, seconded by Frankel? Or was it Allworder?
Allworder.
Thank you.
Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
yes,
Whitney.
Yes, and I move to adopt Resolution 2020-18.
Second.
Moved by Whitney and seconded by Frankel.
Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
yes.
Whitney.
Yes,
I thank everybody. We got off to a rough start, but if we have to do it again, I think we'll do it better. And
How many-
I appreciate everybody coming. We need a motion to adjourn.
Wait a second. How many have been on YouTube? Do we know?
We have, right now, we have about 18 people watching.
Are
Wow.
there any opportunities for those people to ask questions?
They
Now,
can,
have to be by email.
Or on the YouTube channel, I think.
yes, they can chat with me or each other. I haven't received any questions or really any chats. I'm on there just kind of watching it.
Well, if we can't take questions from the audience and we have no business from the audience, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Reynolds, seconded by Allworder.
Allworder,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Sog,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Whitney.
yes.
Good night,
Thank you
everyone.
all.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Tom.
Really great.
It's great to see everybody. Stay safe. Stay safe.
You
and healthy.
too.
And healthy.
We'll see you all soon.
Come home.
I'm as fast as I can.
Bye-bye.
Bye now. Good night.
Hey, Tom. As I went back onto our website, I wasn't able to get back onto the YouTube thing.
You had to go, we're still live streaming, just so you know.
Okay,
If you want, I can explain that when.
okay, very good.
Okay.
How do we? I hit the button a couple times. It won't let me out of here.
No, I can end the meeting right now.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.